Dear SwissBorg community, thank you so much for tuning in. Today we have another show regarding our SwissBorg Alpha product. Please understand that before watching this show, this is not financial advice. Please do your own research at all times. That being said, we're going to ask questions to a very promising project that are related to investor angled questions. And without further ado, I would love to show you all what is the format for today's show. And that is, we have what we call the 7 T's. And the 7 T's here are asking questions that are related to the team, the tech, the token, the theme and the trend, which will be AI, deepen, and gaming today, and the traction. And so without further ado, I'm very happy to introduce you all to the wonderful team at Carv Protocol. Paul and Victor, if you don't mind introducing yourselves.
As Alex said, I'm Paul. I'm leading business here at Carv. I joined the team about 14 months ago. Happy to go into my background a little bit more when we talk about the team. But yeah, I'm super stoked to be here, and shout out the SwissBorg community for having us.
Thank you so much, Paul.
Thank you for having us. Yeah, I'm one of the co-founders of Carv. I lead operations, finance, and globalization at Carv. It's an honor to be here, and happy to share more about what we're building.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, gentlemen. So I guess, when we're talking about the team, and actually before we jump into the first T, I just want to give the SwissBorg community a reminder that, as you guys all know, we actually did a deepin/AI/gaming play with Aether in terms of their node sale just a month back. And for those who haven't participated, because we sold out so fast, as a matter of fact, nearly $3 million was sold out in 40 seconds due to the hype, which I believe is a record in 2024 and 2023. It's crazy, the demand we had. You must be asking yourself, well, should I participate in Carv Protocol or not? I missed out on Aether. Maybe this is a good play. So I think just to start off, Victor and Paul, I think it would make sense to talk about how you guys, what are the similarities and differences between you and Aether? And just for everyone watching out there, please understand that it's actually the Aether team that introduced us to you guys, which is crazy cool, right? So a lot of people would be like, wait a minute, there's some sort of overlap. Are we competitors? But they actually introduced you to us, which is already a great stamp of approval. But if you guys don't mind sharing those 2 points.
Yeah, I'll start on this, and then Victor, maybe you can piggyback a little bit here as well. But as Alex mentioned, we're very close with the Aether team. They introduced us to SwissBorg. We actually partnered up with Aether as well here in the last few weeks. One of the partnerships, and I guess this kind of touches on the similarities, is actually on enhancing our game discovery. So when we get into Carv and the product, you'll see kind of what I mean. But we have a discovery and questioning platform. And what we're going to do with Aether is actually integrate their cloud gaming tech to allow our over 2.5 million registered users to seamlessly try out games on our platform, right? A lot of friction for users is around downloading games. So we're going to be using Aether to kind of power that and enhance the gamer experience on our platform. I think that's one synergetic thing right there, right? Aether is doing some gaming stuff right there. But where we differentiate, right? Aether is very focused on GPU and maybe the deepen narrative. I think Carv for us is really gaming, AI, and anything. We're building the largest modular data layer for the 3. And as we go out through the show here, we'll touch on how we're doing gaming. We'll touch on how we do AI. But I think, and Victor probably will concur with this, we really started in gaming, and it's one of our strengths, and we're focused there really well.
Very well said, Paul. And just to piggyback on that on 2 parts. One is the differentiation actually creates a very strong synergy. The proposed partnership going forward is where Aether will be providing the decentralized compute, and where Carv is providing the user-owned data. And the couple of that actually are the 2 major pillars to power the AI revolution. And the key point there is with Carv, you're able to have a user-owned internet where that AI revolution actually shares some of that reputation back to the users themselves. So that's one of the synergies based on the differentiation. I'd like to also add another similarity and then a differentiation. A similarity is we are both working simultaneously on gaming and AI. And with that, because it is a big ecosystem that we're building, with Carv, there's already 700 games and AI companies that are integrated in the past 2 years. With Aether, they've already created their airdrop cloud, airdrop campaign. And that's the similarity that we have, where there's a big partner and ecosystem that can benefit the node holders and ecosystem overall. So think of us as the ETF of gaming and AI between the two ecosystems. So that's one similarity. I do want to touch upon one differentiation, which is a lot of people are thinking about the vesting schedule. What would it mean to log in that for such a long period of time? And that's one of the things that we improved upon or designed in a way where it is a front-loaded distribution with the market coming up. And so if you look at the tokenomics, about 50% of the total tokens would be undergo emission during year one. And then we've allocated 25% of the total token supply for the node operators to ensure that data flywheel kicks off during year one. And so that's the second point that I really wanted to make.
Thank you so much. That makes a lot of sense. And it's really important for those to understand exactly what Carv is, of course. And you mentioned something really important, the largest modular data layer for gaming and AI. What exactly does that mean in layman terms and simplifying it?
Victor, you want me to take this one? I really think what it means is tackling the core problem we're trying to solve is around data monetization and data sovereignty. And I think we might dive into this a little bit later, but just to segue in, the core problem tackling is that users in Web2 see no value created for their data. So we've built infrastructure to correct that problem, starting in the gaming vertical. So that's where the largest modular data layer for gaming comes. And then on the AI side, we already have an AI product called Carv. And AI is nothing without data. And I think we're well positioned to train AI models in the future and kind of lead in that vertical as well. I think that's kind of where that sentence comes from. But as we flesh out what we're doing, it'll become more clear what that means.
Very well said, Paul. And adding on to that, three elements. One is what Carl mentioned about putting users at the center, where they have a say to own, control, and monetize their data. And so that's one. And two is the ability to be interoperable across all the different execution layer, the storage layer, the application layer. And that's what we mean by modular. We want maximal interoperability for these data so that the innovation can be maximized, so that the value creation can be maximized only when the pie is big enough and that each one of these atomic units would be able to share the value, would everyone benefit, and moving towards our mission of a user-owned internet.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, guys, for that. So if we can move towards the first T, as in team, but if we can also include the backers, right? Or all the strategic advisors, I believe that we're all one team at the end of the day, right? So that T is a bigger T than just the official employees or co-founding or founding members. But your backing is really, really strong. I can see that you guys have Hashkey, you have Consensus, you have Tribe Capital, you have OKX Ventures, Draper, Dragon. How do you guys feel so far about the backing you have, and what are the strategies, and who are the key players amongst your cap table that you think will help bring Carv Protocol to the next level?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can probably take a step here, and Paul, feel free to jump in as well. So there are really three pillars of backers that we see are tremendous in moving Carv towards the mission. The first one is obviously the strong Web2 and Web3 financial investors who have a strong portfolio across gaming, AI, and different verticals that is data intensive. So for example, Singapore Sovereign Fund, Temasek Vertex, for example, Hashkey, IVC, all of these have a big portfolio of companies and resources where they're able to connect us towards a larger ecosystem. Those are extremely important. And so that's one. And obviously that endorsement when we are trying to do go-to-market also helps as well. So that's one bucket. The second bucket is the gaming and AI vertical specific strategic partners. So for example, we're invested by one of the largest cloud providers who owns more than 40% of the largest LLM globally. That company has been helping us with the execution layer on the TE side, privacy preserving, as well as the AI trainings. And so that is another very strong strategic part. And the third part is gaming-related companies. And so, for example, MarbleX, which is the Web3 arm of the largest mobile gaming company, Netmarble in Korea, and others more traditional Web3s like YGG, The Sandbox. All of these are creating this use case for us to really build within AI and gaming. And then lastly, the last vertical would be our ecosystem partners. So for example, Consensus, we're the largest in linear, and then others like Ronin, OPBNB, ZK-Sync, and 40 plus chains. All of these, for Carv, what it means is wherever the games, wherever the gamers are, wherever these data and AI companies are, we need to be there to serve them, to create that modular data layer. And so that's how we think about how we structured the backers and investors to move towards our direction. And I'll pass it to Paul to share more about the core team as well.
Yeah, so diving into a little bit more on the Carv team, but also want to piggyback on what Victor had just mentioned. When it comes to backers, when it comes to validation, I think we would be remiss to not mention our community, right? 2.5 million registered users that have signed up since our product launch in 2022. They've been with us through the bear. They're more energetic now than ever. And I think it's a testament to what we've built, having a community of that size, and we're very thankful for them. Diving into the team a little bit. So you see myself in the bottom. As mentioned in the intro, I've been on the team leading business for 14 months now. I professionally got my start in Web3 just almost 3 years ago at a company called Pocket Full of Quarters. We were working on solving issues around lifetime value of users and average revenue per users, mostly focused in mobile markets with one interoperable currency. That was our solution that worked cross-game, cross-platform. I really think we have a diverse team with interesting backgrounds because I actually came from the sports vertical. I did my MBA in Spain and then got to be at Real Madrid for a little bit in the partnerships and sponsorship activation side. And in total, I have about 5 years of work experience in sales and partnerships. And I think all of it translates very, very well to leading business here in the gaming vertical. Want to pass it off for Victor for a quick intro, and then we'll touch on a couple more of the founders as well.
Yeah, so I can share a bit on the core team as well. So Paul would be a very good representation of someone coming from a very strong vertical of talent, which is the Web3 and blockchain space. So our team I would categorize them into 3 pockets of talent. One is folks like Paul that have very strong DGen and then Web3 blockchain experiences. For example, our CEO and CTO. This is their second venture. The first one was actually in 2017, where they built the largest streaming decentralized gaming platform, DLive, which was later on exited to Tron Network. After that, our CTO went over to Coinbase, was one of the first engineers to work on Base and other solutions on Coinbase. Our CEO later on moved on to another blockchain project and was listed on Binance. And so after that, they decided they wanted to start another venture and started Carv. That's one vertical. The second vertical is very, very strong gaming. And so, for example, our CGO and CPO used to do publishing and then game design for companies like Electronic Arts, Garena, and Tencent Games. And so in this environment, it's extremely important for them to understand what it means for games to try to do user acquisition and what it means in a post-IDFA world, the data challenges that games and gamers are facing. And so with that deep understanding of both the gamers and the games, that helped Carv at the very beginning to have a very, very deep vertical competitive advantage within gaming. And so that's the second pocket. And the third pocket really coming from the data and AI side. Not shown us on this page, but 2 of our tech leads. One of them used to lead TikTok's monetization department, and the second one used to lead Binance AI and data. And so that duo is able to really see the value that is driven from Web2 and then also on-chain stats, and collectively are able to create solutions that are helping the more than 700 games that are working with Carv. And then a good testament is the currently more than 1 million in recurring revenue that's happening on Carv. And that's mainly coming from both the businesses and also the gamers as well. And then you put the money where a lot of the pain points are being solved. And so that would be the third pocket of talent. For myself, I came from a more traditional VC background, used to be at IDG Capital and spent a little stint in Sequoia Capital as well. And then while I was enrolled in Harvard MBA, was very reconnected with Chloe and Yukai, Paul, and then thought what's happening at Carv is so much more fun than just case studies at school. So dropped out and joined Carv, and then the rest is history. The team is right now around 30 people, and we've been building across US, in Bangkok, in Thailand, and then decentralized.
Very exciting, very exciting. So let me just try to encapsulate everything you just said, Victor. So with regards to the actual business model, if I understand clear, you guys have already generated up to date roughly $1 million in revenues. Is that correct? So you already have a business model
in the
in
last
place.
quarter.
Per month in the last quarter. Wow, congratulations. And where does the majority of these revenues come from?
Yeah, I think it's twofold, right? Victor, feel free to piggyback on anything I may miss here, but I think one of them is coming from our business to business relationships. We have an ongoing campaign called Infinite Play that we'll touch on in a little bit, and games are paying a fee to do user acquisition, marketing, etc. with us. Definitely want to demo this later in the conversation. I think taking a look at it, you'll understand tokenomics better and understand the user acquisition flow. So some money's coming from there, but also on the B2C side. A gateway into Carv and in this campaign came in the form of .play name services. So let's say Alex.play, Victor.play, Paul.play. Users were able to buy these and have a Carv ID. Again, we'll probably touch on a little bit because it goes into aggregation of identities, but there was over $1 million in sales a month from those as well. Victor, feel free to add on or amend anything that I may have missed there.
I think that's very well said.
Awesome, guys. So I guess we touched upon the team. So you guys come from great Ivy League schools. You touch around upon your professional background as well, which sectors you're from. So I guess now we can move on to the technology and the product itself. You're just mentioning this now, Paul. So I will share my screen so we can have a look at this together.
What we're taking a look at here is the Carv product. Not the entire thing, but one part of the Carv product. We're looking at probably what I like to consider the engine of Carv's data aggregation right now. So we're looking at Carv's campaign called Data to Earn Soul Drop. It's our, think of it like a play to airdrop, but we're infra, right? So we had to kind of innovate and figure out how to allow users to farm points. On here, it would be called Soul. So what users are actually getting rewarded for is binding their credentials on Carv and the volume of data that they're bringing to Carv. So Alex, if you scroll down a little bit more, you'll see several different credentials. We talk a little bit about the technology. What you're seeing here is actually ERC 7231. It's a standard that Carv proposed to the ETH Foundation that was approved that's powering this. It's what we call Carv ID. It allows for the binding of different Web3 and Web2 credentials into one multi-ID NFT. Back to the product a little bit more, and less the tech behind it. If we were signed in here, Alex, let's say we were on my account, you would see my several different credentials bound and the scores I get. As you can see in MetaMask, it's plus 10 to 200. You're getting rewarded for that weight of the volume. So for MetaMask, think tokens held, transactions made. In the gaming vertical, right? Steam, very, very important. One of the 4 or 5 credentials you can bind in your gaming identities. You'll get rewarded for achievements made, hours played, games in library, and then the Carv Play account, obviously. On Carv, you're going to be able to collect soulbound tokens for any campaign you participate in from one of our partnered games. Aggregate all this together, and you get a mining speed a little bit above on the screen. And so you're able to farm once a day on 4 different chains: Ronin, OPBNB, ZK Sync, and Linea. Carv is actually one of, if not the largest application across all of Web3 verticals. We're the #1 app on Linea, the #1 app on ZK, top 5 in OPBNB, and #2 on Ronin, right behind Pixels, which is the largest Web3 game. I think in terms of UAW, and then also just like popularity, a lot of people play that, and there's a lot of good traction. So to put it all together, I want to make a comment that there's a very synergetic relationship with how users are aggregating their data on Carv and how we could do user acquisition. And this will lead back to that mission statement about helping users monetize from their data. So let's imagine that Shrapnel, right, a very popular Web3 game we have a good relationship with, wants to conduct user acquisition with Carv. Well, they'll pay a fee to Carv, and we can basically deliver hyper-specific information on the users, as long as the users have consented to share this data. Let's say Shrapnel wants a user from Thailand who holds Shrapnel in their wallets, but also is a whale in other ecosystems. But then most importantly, these users also play hundreds of hours of FPS, right? Same genre as Shrapnel. Again, Carv can effectively deliver on that. The caveat here is, if you're a user that fits that criteria, you're going to monetize from this. You're opting into a passive revenue stream for life, because a percentage of the fee Shrapnel paid to conduct said user acquisition will actually go directly to you. The thing that's really attractive here, and why I think our technology is revolutionary, is, again, in the beginning of this, I mentioned how in Web2, our data is misused, leaked, and there's no value created for me, right? Facebook or whoever it may be can sell my data, and I see no ROI from it. Carv envisions a world where we share in that kind of, I guess, value creation. So you're getting a passive revenue stream, and we're projecting this revenue stream to grow and grow as more games need our services, right? We're providing a solution in the gaming vertical that is a desperate need right now, right? Quality user acquisition. But not only that, once we identify them, we can actively activate and retain them using our discovery and questing platform. There's a lot of tools on there via in-game quests or social quests where we can get players into games and enjoying them and help retain them for our key partners. So that's a little bit on the product. Victor, do you want to touch on anything here? And then maybe we could show infinite play as well.
Very well said. I would just add 2 points. One is on the user side. Not only are you able to receive this passive income, but also because of the understanding of yourself, there would be hyper-targeted things, experiences that actually tailor to your preferences. And so as a gamer, that would be semantic recommendation of friends, of games, and it's just better overall experiences. That's one. And two, which is, I think, more important in this context, is the data itself is, one, it's compliant with the policies, data policies, and two, is it privacy preserving. Why does that matter? Is because since 2020 and 2021, policies like GDPR and CCPA, especially I know a lot of audiences here, data compliance needs to be. And that actually solves a lot of companies' problem when they're trying to be compliant with this data. And then the second part, why privacy preserving is extremely relevant here, is in order for us to protect that data, it's run in a physical environment, trusted execution environments. And then there are many of these data centers which are running these TEs for us. And what's important here is we want more and more of the community across geographic to oversee and ensure that these TE environments are functioning in a way that is intended. And so that's where a lot of the community or geographic comes in via verified nodes. So they can oversee that the process is actually privacy preserving, and it's actually sharing the data in a way that is actually sharing the value back to the users in a way that is intended in a decentralized way. And so just wanted to add those 2 points.
Very cool. And I'd love to make a quick summary. So if I understand well, which this is very interesting because I find, guys, that most of the major Web3 projects out there, they will either be very strong on the B2B level, but very weak on B2C level, or vice versa, right? They would have a great community, but they really suck on the B2B level. So no one's building on top or no one's using them as corporate clients and stuff like that. But if I could summarize this in one sentence, your marketing flywheel, as in multi-dimensional, serving different actors in the ecosystem, is that every Web3 game that is going to want to acquire more users, especially quality users, because you have the data, you will provide them with, you will solve that problem, but you also solve the problem from the user's perspective where they can monetize their data that's being shared to those projects that want to use your services. Am I oversimplifying this, or please help me here?
No, I think it really is that simple. I think there's a lot that goes that gets us to that point, but it is really that simple. If you care about data privacy and want to monetize your data and take ownership over it, well, Carv is the place for you. I also want to comment really quickly, Alex, on something you said, like some products may excel at B2B, but then they're lacking at B2C. I think the Carv team over the past 2 years have done a really good job at, for lack of a better word, being in the trenches with our community. Yeah. And I think that's really important to do. I'm sure you know this as well, Alex. Like, you need to be as transparent as you can with your community members, because in Web3, you're building in public. They have an active voice in the direction of your company and its success. And I think we at Carv recognize that. And so we do our best to be in the Discord, be in the Telegram, whatever it may be, at least letting these guys know, hey, we do care what you say. And then what you say may even impact our product, impact our decision making. So just wanted to emphasize on that a little bit as well. Well said, Alex, on the summary.
Awesome. And I think Aether as well, just like you guys, the reason why they're so successful is because they spent so much time in the trenches, trying to talk with China Telecom and all these big, GPU owners in order to create a marketplace that is more advanced than maybe some of the other networks that I won't name that we all know. So great to hear that you've been doing all the legwork here. So I guess, Paul, the next step is to look at this page. Is that correct?
Yeah, we could definitely look at this a little bit more for product. So what we're seeing here is that discovery and questing side I was alluding to earlier. We're on the discovery banner, so you're going to see different games rotating every day. Yeah, so guys, right now what we're taking a look at is the discovery and questing side of Carv, specifically the user profile. So I'm going to take you guys through what you can expect when you first come to Carv. When you first come to Carv, one of the main things you're going to want to do is connect all of your credentials. So there's two main ways you're building out your gamer identity on Carv. You're porting over a ton of Web2 historical data. As you can see right over there, you got your Discord, your Twitter, your Facebook, but most importantly, your Steam, your Epic, your Battle.net, etc. Right? There's nothing too cool about this just yet. One way you're building out your gamer identity from that is by minting generative archive tokens. They're a little below right now, Alex, if you scroll down. These generative archive tokens are actually on-chain representations of achievements you've done in Web 2. So like we all know Left 4 Dead 2 or maybe Payday 2, whatever. These are games on Steam. Let's use Left 4 Dead 2, for example, because I had a lot of fun playing that growing up. This is a zombie game, right? And you can play with your friends, but the most important thing you're seeing here are achievements you got in the game. The blank ones are achievements you've yet to achieve as well. And so they really are personal kind of representations of your time with Left 4 Dead that you can flex on your profile. One thing to note here is that they're actually dynamic. So if this user were to go play more Left 4 Dead, they could come back to their Carv page and remint this badge. So the GAT is like a special thing we did for users to really flex their proudest gaming moments. I think this is a unique kind of product versus some competitors doing some similar things in the reputation layer. If you want to go back to the user profile, Alex, if you can just hit the X in the top right. You'll see the Web2 gaming data expressed a little bit differently here. So that's one way they're building out their identity through those generative archive tokens. But lastly, it's important to note what we do on the soulbound token side as well. Any of our 300 plus partnered Web3 games can put on a campaign on Carv, whether it be a social quest or an in-game quest, a mission, another cool feature on Carv, whatever it may be. If you participated in said event, you're actually able to mint a soulbound badge that will serve as a proof of participation trophy for that event. So we know how these users are behaving. We know what games they like, and that's how we can do all that cool user acquisition stuff. I also want to note one cool activation that Carv has done that I'm very proud of is actually in collaboration with the Wolves DAO. We did the soulbound badges for the Wolves DAO. So we also provide a unique service for unique SBTs for communities, etc. There's a lot of communities that have come to us, to do more soulbound badges for them. We'll get to that. I think we're a little busy on the product side, but we definitely want to make this as universal and applicable to any community. But I think, those are two ways that we help build out identity on the product side.
Super cool. Super cool. I think we've always dreamt of having this type of like dashboard where you can just click into all of your games, see all of that information and be able to sell it as well, right? Or get access to other games and connect to the companies on a deeper level. Victor, anything for you to add on the tech and the product side?
I think what that was extremely well said. What I would add is we are building out the infrastructure where more and more of these applications, like what we're showing here, Carv Play, to be building on top. And so it's going back to the vision of a user-owned internet where the modular data layer is there for interoperability building. And then we just want Carv Play to be, and the AI products that we're building to be just one of the primitive products out there, so that more and more of these different applications, whether it's DeFi, healthcare, e-commerce, whether it's Web2 and Web3, to all be queuing that data that is owned, but also opted in by users themselves. And then more of this data flywheel, going back to Alex, your earlier point about us being able to create that data value exchange, where the demand side is there, the supply side is there, and in addition to that flywheel, there's also the application plus infrastructure flywheel that feeds back to each other, creating a virtual cycle that continues spinning.
Amazing. This is super, super useful. We've already touched upon some aspects of the fourth T, which is the token. So how do you guys want to navigate the next part, Paul? Do you want me to pull up any different pages?
Yeah, let's go back to that infinite play one, or the data to earn one. There's something at the bottom that I think would be pretty relevant for the token as well. Let's take a look at it if you can. Yeah, getting into tokenomics a little bit, I think it's important also to kind of segue in. I want to showcase this campaign. So part of our data to earn Soul Drop, right? I mentioned earlier, 500,000 unique active wallets a day participating in this campaign. Carv is one of the largest projects with on-chain presence. What we really wanted to do was drive some of this user growth or this traction to our game partners as well. So in comes Infinite Play. It's a cool voting system and kind of bribery system where users who are farming Soul can stake their Soul to different prize pools that are set up by our game partners. So like for Infinigods, for example, what's going on here is that you could win or they're kind of bribing users to participate and stake Soul to Infinigods by giving out some of their NFTs or other prizes. I think Mixmob is doing the same thing with their NFTs. The idea here is let's take the 500,000 users and drive them to our ecosystem partners. And so we've got 11 games here in season 2. In season 1, we actually peaked with about 58,000 users joining the Nian Heroes ecosystem. I want to be clear here, guys. So what we're doing basically is allowing our users to farm Soul by playing Infinigods, by doing Infinigods on-chain tasks, and then lastly, by doing Infinigods social tasks. It gets really, really exciting when one of the partnered games, like Nian Heroes in season 1, has a play to airdrop simultaneously ongoing. So you're actually able to farm Soul and then whatever Neon Heroes' ticker was at the same time. Getting back into the tokenomics a little bit, but I guess one last thing to say here, if you scroll down one more time, Alex, you'll kind of see the traction here ongoing for the past 2 weeks. So I think 26,500 players toward Infinigods. That's pretty strong. I don't think too many people in Web3 gaming for that matter can replicate that. Sorry for stuttering a little bit. Getting into the tokenomics. So there's going to be, I guess a little bit of the alpha, like the ticker is going to be Carv. But what a lot of users are going to want to be using is actually what's called vCarv, which stands for Voting Escrow Carv. It's for our protocol governance, what you're seeing here. But it's going to be used basically to, instead of stake Soul, you're going to be staking vCarv here. For those that care, vCarv will be able to be exchanged one-to-one with Carv. And a lot of things you're seeing on the Carv site will just be powered by the Carv token as well. I'm going to tap Victor in here as well to add a little bit more on the utility of the token and what it's needed for on the Carv site.
Mm-hmm. And what Paul just showed is one of a very strong use case that's powering the data flywheel. Again, going back to Alex, the two sides of the marketplace, the gamers that want that Carv token, and then the games that are staking those tokens to drive demand coming into the games themselves. And so that is a very strong use case for the gamified usage of that token. And again, going back to the fact that we have both the protocol layer, so infrastructure, as well as the application layer. And so we're going to talk about the nodes in a bit as well. And we also shared that 25% of the total token allocation actually goes to the nodes. And what that means is the token is also a reward for those that are contributing to the security and the growth of the network or the infrastructure side. So that's one. And then on the application layer, Carv is acting also as a medium of payment, where on the Carv Play, which is the game distribution platform, users are able to use Carv to purchase in-game virtual items, to purchase cosmetics, to purchase, for example, .play name services that we just shared. That's one side. And then at the same time, when users are opting in their data, these become commodities. And these commodities could be queried by AI companies, gaming companies trying to do UA, and then they would be using that Carv token to purchase or query that data that would eventually be shared back to the users themselves. And so many of these mini circuits or mini loops where there's a demand and supply side for Carv and vCarv that is sustaining the overall demand for Carv. One last thing I wanted to mention on the tokenomic side is it is also deflationary. When you are running the nodes, you would collect vCarv, which you can convert into Carv. If you decide to unlock Carv earlier, part of the Carv is burned and part of that goes back to the treasury to ensure that there's flexibility in your emission time schedule. At the same time, there's also deflationary effect, which further increases the overall value of the entire Carv ecosystem. And so many little pockets just to drive up the demand.
Super cool, guys. Super cool. I have a quick question because it would make sense the fact that you're connecting all the dots here, that further down the line, some of these projects are going to see how big your community is growing. And they're probably even going to ask you, like, can you help us launch a token or can you help us launch an NFT? Have you guys thought about, let's say like a stake drop or some sort of launch pool, utility to your token as well for those who just, they come in, they're like, oh man, this Web3 stuff is complicated. Can you create our token or can you launch our token or can you launch our NFT? Because I've seen that in the past. There's actually a project called YGG Japan, which has the YGG branding. And I know Fujiwara-san very, very well. And he has a lot of that coming from Web2, right? They're like, oh, can you manage our NFT or token or whatever? So I don't know. I'm just throwing some things at you guys.
I think Alex is trying to squeeze all the alpha out of us as possible for the call, which I'm cool with. I like dropping some. Victor, I kind of want to tap you in because I think before I joined, we actually did a couple of Launchpad things with some NFTs, correct?
That's right. At the early 2022s, we had around 15 gaming companies, gaming projects come over to do INOs on our platform. That was in high demand at the time. Overall, I think the approach would be we want to really focus on, first, the data protocol, where more and more of these applications can build on top interoperably. That's one. If there are launch pads, if there are these projects that want to leverage that data in order to achieve better INOs, better IDOs, that would be incredible. We want more of them. That's one. And two is in the Carv Play, where we're focusing on the gaming sector. If the needs come, I think one of the pockets of growth, potentially, I'm looking at that tokenomics graph we have here, we actually have that as a potential down the roadmap as well. But again, it would be something that is niche, that we want to refine, and then creating that protocol layer where more and more of these applications can build on top. Very happy to explore with SwissBorg as well on that element.
Of course, we only do long-term and sustainable partnerships at SwissBorg, right? So we won't forget you guys for sure. All right, great. And you just mentioned the roadmap, so that's probably a great way to end the interview. But before we jump into the roadmap, I just want to jump on the fourth T. Sorry, guys, I said fourth earlier, but this is the actual fourth, which is the T for traction. But we pretty much summed it up already. I think you guys have done $10 million Series A round. You have roughly 2.5 million wallets registered. Are there any other key? We are making $1 million of revenues a month since Q1 2024. Are there any other numbers that you guys are proud of that you want to share, or have I summarized this well enough?
Yeah, I would just add one more number. When we were looking at that airdrop campaign earlier and talking about .play name services, 900,000 plus unique wallets have actually purchased a .play, and currently 500,000 unique active wallets a day are participating in that protocol. And then I would say also maybe some cool numbers on the B2B side. We're still on the B2C side, sorry, over 5 million attestations minted. So this is referring again to the soulbound badges that people have done. I think that's a great kind of indicator of activity as well. And then lastly, on the B2B side, so we say 300 plus Web3 projects, but when you factor in Web2 games and then also AI projects we're working with, our kind of Rolodex of partners goes up to 750 plus, I think. So well connected, working with a lot of cool projects and great traction so far.
Awesome. Victor, anything to add, or are you happy with that summary right there?
That was a fantastic summary.
Yeah. Alex said it best first, and then I hopped in and was like, let me just take it to the next level.
I wish. All right, Paul. So this whole node sale thing is becoming really, really big. But I think a lot of people don't really understand the difference between an early stage investment directly in the token and buying the actual nodes. If you don't mind telling us why it's important and what the people are getting, that'd be super useful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a great question, Alex. You mentioned the nodes are getting very, very popular. It's definitely a meta. I want to stress that I believe Carv has one of the stronger narratives for why we're selling nodes. And let's jump into it right now. So I'm going to take us through the entire kind of summary of what we've talked about so far. So Carv has a very modular design. That's kind of the new flashy word teams like to throw on their pitch deck, but we've actually built it. So let's go into it. We looked at our discovery and questing platform earlier, with the different games and the different things users can do. That sits on our application layer. But it's not the only product we have. We also have Carv's AI agent, Cara, which I believe I detailed a little bit in the beginning of the show. Right now, she's just helping out on the customer service side, but in the future, she's going to really expedite and enhance B2B and B2C discovery. On the game side, I'm an FPS. I want FPS users. Kara will handle that. I'm an FPS player. Kara knows this because of my gaming historical data. She'll show me FPS games. But we also have room for third-party applications. I think there's a lot of tools in the space. One I'm really fond of is called Helica, doing data analytics, that could actually sit on top of Carv's protocol and use our data layer to basically feed and enhance their product, which they deliver to customers as well. Just an example of a third-party application that could sit on our protocol, on the application layer. Underneath it, this is where our protocol begins. We're looking at the identity layer. And guys, if you remember earlier with that different account aggregations you can do, again, it was all powered by one ERC 7231 standard called Carv ID, the binding of different Web3 and Web2 credentials in one place. But we also see this very synergetic with other Web3 DID projects. You can bind those to your Carv ID and use it as your one central place, bringing all of your identity in one place. And once it's in one place, you're going to need to store that data somewhere. So again, into our modularity, users will actually be able to store their data on Greenfield, on IPFS, Carv's database when it's built out. We've even had conversations with different tech providers like EigenLayer to have our own AVS there as well. This is just touching on our modularity that users have several different areas they can store their data. Again, this is all of Carv protocol leading into why we're doing the nodes. Next is the computation and training layer. Victor mentioned this earlier. It's very important that all of this data sharing is done in a privacy preserving way. That's where we use things like trusted execution environment, but then also a little bit of the ZK proofs, right? To basically prove what users do, XYZ, who they are, while protecting anonymity. All of this data, all of that information needs to be posted somewhere. And that's what we'll do with the execution layer, which is just referring to different layer 2 partners that Carv may have. So we list Solana, we list Cosmos, whoever it may be will serve as an execution layer. And again, we can work with multiple different chains, which goes into the modularity of our design. Lastly, the nodes. The verification layer is just the nodes, making sure everything above worked out. So in short, the nodes are being done to verify our end-to-end data process, in short. We really want to decentralize the Carv network even further. I want to stress as well, Victor mentioned earlier, 25% of the allocation is allocated for verifier node runners. The one really cool thing that sets up our emissions rewards, maybe a little different than other node programs, is that 50% of the tokens will be emitted in the first year. So it's almost like a 2x kind of speed compared to other node sales to the, break-even point. Victor, do you want to add anything in that right there?
I think it's already very well said.
So it was good to go. Victor, is there anything you wanted to add, or are you happy with Paul's explanation, the way he broke it down?
It was really good. I think he had a good training from CTO, and then very, very well executed.
Fantastic, gentlemen. Yeah.
I think it went really well, Alex. And then I also wanted to say, just let your community know we're pretty accessible. So if there's anyone that has a particular question, we're happy to explain them or walk them through something that may not be clicking. Happy to do.
So I guess the final question, guys, is, I know that you guys are in this for the long run. And unfortunately, in Web3, there are a lot of people who are very short-term sighted and are not thinking about building a sustainable and scalable platform, right? But amongst the roadmap, and you don't have to share everything on your roadmap, but what are some things that excite you the most, whether it be this year or next year? It doesn't have to be the immediate future, but something that really connects with you on a principled, on a principled layer, or just in terms of who you are as a person and how you see how you want to build the future.
Yeah, I'll start, and then Victor, you can jump in as well. Number one, I think the biggest thing for the community, they always ask when TGE. But for me, I think the biggest thing on the roadmap would be further fleshing out the mission statement. That's what really attracted me when I joined Carv, right? Because I'm a gamer. I've got a ton of gaming history with me. The thought of being able to bring it to one place and then actively monetize that data in a privacy preserving way, that really attracted me. So what I'm looking forward to in this kind of next bull cycle that I think we're getting to, a lot of games that were really well funded are going to come to market. And I think a lot of these games were, one, already connected with, or two, are going to want to work with Carv. And so we're going to be doing a lot more user acquisition stuff with said games, which is going to allow for more monetization opportunities for our gamers. I think what's really going to kind of hit for me is when in our Discord community or whatever, people are talking about, the passive money they're earning on Carv just for all the years of gaming they've done or whatever it may be. I think that as a gamer is something I'm personally looking forward to. And then also, I think with that comes new users as well. I love the community we have now. Again, I'm usually in the trench, but there's going to be some game coming out here that's going to hit mass adoption, whatever it may be. One of these games is going to do it, and I think it's going to capture real market share, and you're going to see users actually start using, these games and these products in full. And I think Carv is one of the best products out there, so I'm looking forward to a bunch of new users coming to Carv. I think that would be something on the roadmap that excites me. Maybe something we're building as well. I'll defer to Victor. I don't know how much alpha we could give. I don't know. Go for it, Victor.
I think it was extremely well summarized. Piggybacking on one of the points you mentioned, Paul, there is we do see this year as another year where more and more of these incredible games are coming out. And think of Carv Play, the application that is focused on gaming, to be an ETF of all the gaming companies out there. Because we're integrated with them, because the gamers there are on Carv as well. We think via Carv, whether it's nodes, whether it's without tokens, or just being on that platform, you are already exposed to that sustainability and cap of that gaming TAM, which is out there, both across Web2 and Web3. And I think that personally is extremely exciting. And just adding on to what Paul was mentioning. Another thing that is also quite exciting for me is this year we're seeing a lot more of the product market fit, and then also the tipping point of where the data flywheel actually kicks in. And then with that, I think we're another step towards the read-write-own era of the internet, where users can actually have and become an atomic unit of the internet and have ownership over their data, and using that as a way, especially in the context of AI revolutions, where a lot more of these productivities and value creation is exponentialized. That value is something that value can be redistributed, and then we're actually changing the paradigm of the internet. And that is something that is extremely exciting for me. A lot of things that we're doing right now, for example, the usage of Soul Token, which is a turbocharged points that Paul was mentioning earlier, is just in the experiment phase, and already seeing so many excitement coming from a business side, coming from the gamer side. Imagine when there's an actual token out there which unleashes that potential 10x, 100x. Super excited.
Fantastic. Amazingly put, guys. Thank you so much for your young and energetic talks today. It was very easy to understand for all those watching out there. Please let us know if you have any questions. So we covered the 4 major T's, which was the team, of course, the technology, the third T, which is token. And we talked about the traction as well, the theme and the trend. I think we don't really need to comment on AI gaming. Those are clear trends in this space. So yeah, we're looking forward to having you guys. The vaults will be available on May 16th. So be ready for the Alpha Vaults. And thank you so much for tuning in. See you guys very, very soon. Have a good one.
Thank you guys for your time. Cheers, SwissBorg. Cheers, SwissBorg community.
Thank you so much.
How do we do, Alex?
Take care.
Good. It was really good.